Okay, now, so we have survived the first task of this assessment. Let's discuss the next task, which is basically about making graphs, creating graphs, and conducting and performing some statistical tools for our analysis. But for this part, we are going to discuss the graph and mean score first. Okay. All right. There are several tasks for the task two includes several parts. The first one is the graph that includes two variables. And of course, you need to put your comments on what you observe on the graph. Okay, the mean score, or popularly the average forecast that includes the industry and also annual sales of each product, correlations coefficients. Um, that includes three pairs of variables for each brand. Therefore, uh, we need to analyze 9 correlations coefficients. And the last one is the business performance. We rank Cooper's brands according to the performance and the possible reasons of the performance. Okay. So this part we are going to discuss the first two, the graph and also mean score or average analysis. Okay. Okay, let's discuss a little bit more why chart. Well, because chart helps us communicating complicated data. A lot of people may struggle to look at numbers, but if we present the numbers or numeracy data in the format of um, diagram or visual format, it will make life easier, like the one shown in here. Okay, so people can grasp the idea very quickly after they look at the diagram. And charts translate numerical information into visual form so that the relationship of the variables may be easily grasped. And eventually, charts helps us convincing the audience. Remember, when you when you deliver your presentation, it's not only about communicating the data, but you also need to consider convincing people. Okay. Okay. Now let's have a look at the main ones, like bar and column charts. Okay. The column chart is the most common form of chart as they're simple to create and understand. It is also good to show trend and contribution. So if you want to show trend as well as contribution like the one shown in here, then you can select either bar chart or column chart. Okay. That shows the trend, and if you look at the colors in here, that also shows the contribution for each period along the line of the trend. Okay. And bar charts are also good for comparing groups or categories. So you can compare this group or that group. For instance, here you're showing the comparison between Asia Pacific and Z and so on and so forth in each column or bar chart. Just on the bar chart, it's just displayed horizontally, but it still does the job. Okay, some people may use combination between bar and column as well. The next one is pie chart, which is fantastic to show breakdown of a total quantity at one point in time. In other words, it is quite powerful to show contribution or percentage. So any data that require you to show the contribution or percentage, such as market share, for instance, or sales contribution in the business, for instance, you can consider using pie chart. But it's hard to show pie chart in a trend unless you show two. You can have a bit of trend if you like, but not as not like the bar chart or column chart in terms of showing the trend. When you use pie chart to show the trend, you can show two pie charts basically. Let's say one is for 2014 and the other pie chart is for 2015 to show a little bit of comparison. But again, if you focus on showing the contribution or percentage, focusing on that, so pie chart is highly recommended. The next one is line chart. Line chart displays information as a series of data points, and line charts are used exclusively to visualize a trend in data. So if you want to focus on showing the trend for your data, like this one here, 2011, 2014, for instance, how much you sell for, how much is your sales for cakes, coffee, and cold drinks, for instance, then you can use line chart, because line chart is fantastic if you want to exclusively show the trend. Area chart displays the region between two line charts, so you can also show the trend as well as the comparison and highlight the difference between the two lines, like shown on this example. Okay, so the other things I'd like to highlight to you is, in your chart, please show the details. Please include the details of your chart, like title, unit that you use, such as in $1,000. Now be careful of the unit that you show in here, because if you put $1,000 like this one here, that means all figures in here have changed from $500 into $500,000, for instance. Okay, so make sure that you check that to check the accuracy. You can also show the value. For each of the line, and large values like $1 million are normally simplified into thousands of dollars, like this one here. So simple figures will appear on y-axis, like the one here, the y-axis. Okay, so instead of writing $1,516,000, we write 1,516, because we are using $1,000 like the one shown in here. Okay. And category, e.g. year and legend titles. In this instance, for instance, we put the products, cakes, coffee, and cold drinks. So please also show that as part of the details that you need to show in your chart. Now, the other thing that I'd like to discuss is the charts with two variables. Some of the charts may look, some of the variables may have different scale. Therefore, we need to consider having the second y-axis like the one shown here. Okay, two variables in one chart help you to communicate the issues opportunities better. Okay, to show the connection better between the two lines. Right now, the reason for that is again the variables may have different scales. Okay, let me just show you okay, this chart here. If you look at that chart, okay, making it larger. Okay, let's say change the scale to 14, change the font size. Okay, if you look at that, we are looking at two variables here, sales and distribution. Okay, which is showing us different scale. This one is basically hundreds and around 1,000, and this one here is just below 10. If we put them all into the chart using one y-axis, we can't show the second one clearly. We can't show the distribution clearly. Therefore, we need to consider showing using the second y-axis to show it. To show the two variables, the two line chart or the two charts, the two variables clearly on our chart. Right, let's have a look at that. Okay, click insert. Right, click that. All right, this is the area that we want to chart. Okay, and right click. Okay, we select the data. Let's put in the first data. Okay, sales, and the next one is the numbers. Okay, and we add with the second one, which is basically distribution, and we also add with the values of our distribution. Okay, there you go, we got the data. Now this one here, we can edit that 1, 2, 3 into the year that we want, from 2010, 2015. Okay, there you go, we got that. See, if you look at that, we've got problem here, okay, because the distribution, since it has a different scale, it doesn't show, the chart doesn't show clearly our distribution trend, which is not the purpose of presenting chart. Okay, what we can do is we can create the second y-axis. How do we do that? Bring our cursor to the distribution line, okay, that little fellow here, and left click so the dots appear, and right click, sorry, oops, doesn't appear. Okay, now it appears. Okay, now the dots appear, and right click. What we can do is we can click that format data series. See that the options appear. So click the second axis. There you go. We got that. So hopefully you find the difference between the previous chart and the current chart. Okay. What about if you don't like the second chart, the distribution, the second variable to be in line chart? Can we change that? Yes, we can. Okay, bring that to that line again, and right click, we have the options, and create and click the change series data. Okay, let's say column chart. That's the one that we select because column and line work quite nicely. There you go, you got that one. Okay, so hopefully that little trick helps you to create your own chart, because at the end of the day, when we present the chart, that helps us communicating complicated data in the format of numbers or numeracy data in a simple way to communicate that easily and also convince the audience is better. Okay. You can also find YouTube link that I have put in the learning materials, and click that link. You'll be able to find the same tricks that we just discussed before. Okay, now as a reminder for the chart task, you need to. There are 9 charts with 2 variables, or 2 sets of data that include sales and P-span, sales and distribution, and P-span and intention to purchase. Okay, so two variables must be shown, or 2 sets of data must be shown on each chart for the above tasks 1, 2, and 3. Okay, well, it looks like many, but my recommendation for you is to copy and paste the data from your assessment brief onto your spreadsheet. So that makes life easier. In real life, as a marketer, we also need to analyze data before we can form our own opinion. Okay, and the other thing that we also need to create is the other chart that we also need to create is to show contribution. Now, go back to the theory that we just discussed before. What is the best chart to show sales contribution or sales contribution or percentage? Okay. Right, these are some websites, and that's the link that you can click if you need to look at to get more information about the creating charts using 2 sets of data. Okay, now let's move on to mean score or average analysis. Okay, this one is probably the statistical tool is probably the most widely used. Okay, in other words, we can also label it as average. And it is actually defined as the observations divided by the sum of the observations, or the total of the observations divided by the number of observations. Okay, and the formula is shown here below. So X bar, or the average or the mean score, is equal to sigma X divided by n, where X bar is the arithmetic mean calculated from a sample, or this is pronounced by as X bar, and this is actually the mean score, or the average that we want to calculate. Sigma X is the sum of the observations, and n is the number of observations in the sample. Okay, so let's have a look at the sample here. We have 6 periods, January to June, and this is basically the sales data that we have from 1100 right through 1175, for instance. Okay. Now, one of the reasons why we need to calculate the central tendency like mean score is basically because we want a single figure to represent the set of one set of data. Okay, in this instance, let's say if we report to our boss, to our manager, this is the sales situation that we have. Well, this is only showing you 6 periods of data. What about if you need to show 12 or 18 or 20 and so on and so forth? So you may find it hard. Therefore, statisticians create the central tendency like mean score or average. Okay, so that's the reason why we use average. We are going to appoint one figure to represent all other members in here. Okay, now let's look at that further. Okay, so the first step is to calculate to get the sum. So we add them all, and we get, for this set of data, we get 6600. And step 2 is to divide the sum of the observations by the number of observations in the sample. In this instance, we have 6 members. Therefore, the average or the mean score would be 6600 divided by 6. We get 1100. Okay, so if we go back here to our table, we add them all, we get 6600, 6600. And since there are 6 members, the number of observation is 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we should get 1100. Okay.